comics are just in a really good space right now with a ton of different wonderful creators working on a ton of different wonderful things, and I feel really fortunate to be a comic fan in this day and age.
Hello, everyone. Happy Tuesday. I'm Jeremy.
I'm Alan.
And we want to welcome you back to GG Everybody, your ultimate pop culture podcast where we hit start on all things geek. From video games and comic books to tabletop RPGs, tech trends, and beyond, we're here to level up your fandom. Whether you're a console warrior, dungeon master, or just someone who loves diving deep into geek culture, we've got something for you. Each episode, we tackle the biggest topics, hot takes, and hidden gems from across your favorite fandoms. So grab your dice, charge your controllers, and get ready to geek out. Person that we're geeking out with today is Sam, the Geeky Citizen. Sam, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for asking me to join. This is the first time I've done something like this, and I'm looking forward to talking to you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're in a lot of the same circles, I think, in geekdom. I think folks who are following, Aiden Moore and other kind of like nerdy news and influencer types may have come across your profile. Tell us a little bit about, kind of what's your background in geekdom? Like, what was your first passion? Was it gaming? Was it, other geeky stuff? Was it comics? And then from there, kind of how you began to carve out, your persona, your niche within the geek community.
Well, the thing that started it all was, well, superheroes. Back when I was a kid, I want to say 3 or 4, I watched the old Fleischer Superman cartoons, and when I got a little bit older, I started reading Spider-Man comics. I was around 10 years old. Spider-Man 2 just came out, and I was in a bookstore with my grandmother, and she got me a comic with Spider-Man and Doc Ock on it. And that book was Marvel Masterworks Volume 2, Amazing Spider-Man. And that really opened my eyes to the wider Marvel universe. It showed me characters I'd never seen before, like Betty Brant, Flash Thompson, Liz Allen, and it also had Amazing Spider-Man Annual #1, which had cameos from Doctor Strange, Fantastic Four, right, the Avengers, and it just really broadened my horizons to the wider Marvel universe. And as I've gotten older, I've read more comics from Marvel and DC. I love Superman and Wonder Woman and The Flash a lot. I've also gotten into a lot of different indie comics as well, such as, most famously, Invincible, and plenty of others as well that I try my best to post about and give attention to. As for how I sort of got this persona together, it all started in 2020 during COVID. I was getting at the time I was really bored. I wasn't seeing a ton of people, and I decided that I wanted to sort of reach out more virtually. So I started just commenting on other people's stuff, commenting on other people's profiles about stuff I liked. I started making my own posts and gradually started making friends with other creators, other creators such as Ant Comics and many others.
Yeah. Very cool. Yeah. And I think that's a pretty, common thread. I think a lot of us were a little stir crazy during COVID, right? Like during lockdown, and we were trying to figure out, okay, what are we going to do to try and make ourselves productive, finding opportunities to have the time to engage more in social media, for good or for ill, right? Mm-hmm. The monkey paw curls forward. It's like, I would love more time to spend on the internet. Okay. So yeah, I think that journey definitely sounds familiar. And so, definitely comic focus, it sounds like. Was there a particular, maybe trend line, or you mentioned Invincible kind of like being a big one, but like, was there a particular like article or response or, something that you did that maybe got more attention, and have you since like tried to kind of recreate that buzz, or are you just kind of continuing to stay on top of comics and continuing to offer contributions to the broader conversations in that space?
Well, I think what really actually sparked my uh, quote unquote claim to fame is when I was posting about my read through of the Dan Slott Amazing Spider Man run. Way back in the day, I used to be a diehard hater of all things post World War Day for Spider Man, but
Hmm.
after seeing people praise his previous work with Silver Surfer and She Hulk, and seeing some people praise his work for Amazing Spider Man, I figured I ought to give it a shot. And since then, I've become a super fanboy, and I've posted a lot of my reactions to what I was reading in that run. And think I think that partially helped with helping me figure out that partially helped me reach a lot more people a lot more people as well.
Yeah.
And lately I just try to stay on top of comics, and if I see something that I really really like or something that really resonates with me, I like posting about it. I am not sure if I want. I'm not sure if I would call myself an influencer or career content creator, but I just like I just like talking to other nerds on the internet, and I just like talking about what I enjoy and
Yeah.
trying to be I try my hardest to be a good example in the fandom space.
A good geeky citizen, right? That's the idea, is to be a good geeky citizen. What is it
Yeah.
that you are? What are you talking about these days? Like what's something that maybe in the last week or so you've been excited to be reading or posting about? Before we
Oh,
dive, obviously we have a few topics to talk about today, but like if you have anything else that kind of like sprung to your mind, because I'm just curious.
oh dang. I've been really enjoying DC's Absolute Universe lately, and I've really been enjoying how it deconstructs and reconstructs different parts of the characters. I've also been enjoying the different X-Men books at Marvel and how all the different teams are rebuilding after Krakoa, and how each team has their own approach to being an X-Men team. And well, and comics are just in a really good space right now with a ton of different wonderful creators working on a ton of different wonderful things, and I feel really fortunate to be a comic fan in this day and age.
Yeah, absolutely. It's an embarrassment of riches, right? Like there's definitely a
Yeah.
ton of really exciting stuff out there to read. We had IDW senior publicity manager Greg Katzman on not too long ago, and just talking about like the Godzilla books that are coming out, and how awesome Free Comic Book Day was back last month, and just so many amazing things on the shelves, and so. It's really, really exciting. Speaking of which, Alan, did you ever follow up with Greg on sending him like heroes that you like to get maybe some books sent to you?
Honestly, no. I
Okay.
completely fumbled that one, but also, was dealing with some shoulder injury too, which I missed the last podcast. So, but it is on my mind. I do need to give you my info so you can pass it along to him.
Yeah. Let's do that. Let's do that so that we can get you into comics, because Alan isn't so much into the comic space as he is the video game space. So, but I'm curious, Sam. We were chatting a little bit before we started recording, right? Like our excitement over the Switch too. So why we can use this kind of the segue into our first conversation topic. But what's been your background with gaming? What was your first console? What do you find yourself playing a lot? And yeah, I guess let's just kind of start with maybe your video game background, and then we can chat a little bit about what we're excited for the Switch 2 and its imminent release.
Well, largely when I was a kid, most of my gaming experience was with a little Game Boy Advance and then a Nintendo DS. I didn't get into the bigger consoles like PlayStation and Xbox until I was quite a bit older. Until I
Oh,
was quite a
interesting.
bit
Okay.
older.
Okay.
And lately I switched back and forth between Nintendo and PlayStation depending on what's really grabbing me. Like, I'm sure I'm going to be going in deep into Nintendo this week when I start playing Mario Kart World on the Switch 2, which I'm very excited about. I love playing against other players. I like to play against my friends, and I especially love playing with my sister, who uh, who just loves playing video games with me as well. We also like playing Smash as well.
Nice.
Uh,
Nice. You got to teach him. You got to teach him right. You have to establish dominance. Let them know who wins. Let them get ahead of you, and then use the blue shell. And then when they think they're about to cross the finish line to victory, that's when you crush their dreams and hopes.
I tend to dominate in Kart, but she tends to kick my ass when it comes to Street Fighter.
Oh, okay. Give and take. It's a give and take.
And we all have our strengths and weaknesses, don't we?
Of course. Awesome. Yeah. So you had more of that like handheld experience before, and then you got older and you were able to kind of drive your own, sort of console and gaming experience. And so you have a PS5 basically and a Switch. Are those like your main consoles?
Those are my main consoles. Those are my main consoles. I really love a lot of the stuff that's on both consoles right now. I really love all the different exclusives that PlayStation has been coming out with the past few years. I leaned more towards PlayStation because, well, all the Spider-Man stuff, and
yeah.
I remember very clearly in 2014 when I saw that teaser trailer and no wait, it wasn't 2014, it was 2016. 2016 and heard Yuri Lowenthal as Spider-Man, and I was like, I need to get a PlayStation now. And
yeah.
And ever since I've been a really big PlayStation guy and have gone into all the other exclusives like Horizon. I've really liked the God of War war games that have been coming out, and Ratchet and Clank, and there's just so many wonderful exclusives and so many wonderful worlds and stories to play around in PlayStation right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been working through Expedition 33. I'm nearly at the end of Act 2. I'm gonna try and hammer out the rest of it probably over this coming week into the weekend, which has been a ton of fun. It's not PlayStation exclusive, but I've been having a lot of fun with that. And then similar to was it Alan, right? You were saying you before we started recording that you're finishing up Death Stranding in preparation for Death Stranding 2. I also need to do that. I need to revisit the director's edition. So
better get started. That game will get really long.
I know. I'm working on it. So that's also what I do. I heard Death Stranding 2 is going to have a long playtime. Like I heard Blessing over at Kind of Funny was like, he went out there to do a demo and he played like 40 hours, and they're like, yeah, you're like a third of the way through. So, like
that's insane, man. That is insane.
Yeah, I heard it's massive.
Word of advice: when you get around to playing the first Death Stranding, you gotta complete all the pizza delivery missions. It's gonna help. It'll give you a reward that'll really help you in the end game. I cannot recommend doing that enough.
All right.
The missions
Sadly,
suck.
I've only delivered some of them, and I'm at the end game. So whatever the help is, I'm not getting it.
Yeah,
I'm sure you can make it through.
Yeah, this is for me to enjoy the wisdom. It's a bit late for Alan, but that's okay. You will survive. All right, so we've got in just 3 days two very, very important things. First, I'm turning 40. My birthday is on June 5th. And that I joked online too. I'm like, oh, the Nintendo's releasing the Switch 2 for my birthday. How kind of them. So that's happening on Thursday. And the Switch 2 is coming out. Sam, you mentioned
now, are you going to the store to get it, or you're having it delivered?
Oh, I'm going to the store, baby. I'm going to Best Buy to pick it up. They're gonna have
Are you doing like the midnight launch?
I don't know if they'll have it if they have it for me at midnight, sure. Like if they send me an email and say you can come and pick this up at midnight, then I might just do that. Otherwise,
From what I've
I'll
seen,
swing
like
by it.
all the Best Buy, if it's a physical location, they're doing a midnight launch.
Yeah. I just wasn't sure if like will they have mine at midnight or will they get like a big truck shipment at like 9 a.m. and then they'll tell me like before open or something. So I'll keep an eye on that and see. I'm down to go and pick it up that day or at midnight if they have it ready for me. But I was going to say, Sam, so you mentioned, you're really excited to get into it, play Mario Kart World and everything. How was your pre-order experience? Who did you go through to get the pre-order done? And did you do that the day it came out, or did you happen to look upon a restock or something afterwards?
I've been very unlucky with pre-orders, and I completely missed out. So I'm gonna have to order it on launch day.
Oh, okay. You're basically hoping that you can go and grab either an extra one or just really try and get one once the console's actually out.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
Yeah, and
so were you trying the day of, like, where? I'm just curious because Alan and I both kind of had our own pre-order experiences, so I'm just curious, like, if you were trying to pre-order, like, who were you trying to pre-order with, and like what your experience was like, because I know this was a pain point for a lot of people.
Dane, I tried going through everybody. I tried Best Buy, I tried Target, I tried Walmart. It wasn't available anywhere. Like a schmuck, I didn't consider when I heard when I heard pre-orders were starting at midnight. I live on the Pacific. I live on the Pacific. I live near the Pacific, so it didn't register for me that it was going to start at 9 p.m. my time.
Oh no, yeah.
So when I went online, I was all like, "Oh shoot, it's already happening."
Yeah.
So I missed out on pre-orders. But I am completely fine with. I'm completely fine with waiting, and I'm completely fine with ordering on launch day and waiting when it becomes available.
Yeah. No, that's fair. I was keeping an eye on that. I'm like, oh yeah, that's good to know. Like, it's midnight East Coast, but it's 9 p.m. here. So, I had an alarm set. I was at a friend's house doing like a game night, and I became the worst friend ever. I just like totally zoned out. I'm like, okay, I'm going to try to order a Switch 2. And I was an idiot. I was like, oh, this will be quick. I'll just jump on bestbuy.com and they'll just have one ready for me. And of course, Best Buy didn't go live with them until like 9:25 or 9:30. So I'm literally sitting. I was trying to get it through Target, refreshing it. I got it in my cart, tried to check out, kept getting errors, right? And then I went to Best Buy and I was refreshing and it still said, not in stock. And I thought that it had just sold out. Like I thought it was immediately gone. And I was really bummed. But then I refreshed, I think I refreshed like right when it went live. And so it lit up and I was like, boom, 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 boom. And it was like in my cart, checked out. I was like, yes, done. So I really lucked out there. But yeah,
I
like
got
Target was
lucky
forever.
on Walmart did a stealth drop at like 1 a.m. like 2 days after the official pre-order period, and I got one thanks to the people's champ, Wario 64. So Sam, follow Wario 64 and be ready because like I think it was yesterday, or the day before, they did another stealth drop like around 2:30 East Coast time, and like some people were able to get pre-orders in. So between now and the official launch date, keep an eye on Wario.
People's cards might have canceled. They might have canceled their order.
Exactly.
Like a lot of Best Buy orders, they're like sending out to like confirm or cancel. So, yeah, I mean, keep an eye on that stuff. Wario 64 is the man. He's how I got my PS5 on launch day as well. Like I got my pre-order for PS5, which was like way harder. So definitely make sure you have those notifications on because he'll help you out.
Also, from everything I've seen, all the same retail stores, Walmart, Target, Best Buy, will have some stock on launch day online as well as in store. So be on the lookout for that too. And for places like GameStop specifically is doing a special thing where they're actually doing the pre-orders like at 3 in the afternoon local time. So this will be 3 p.m. Pacific for you. where basically you line up and put in your pre-order then, and then you come back at midnight to pick up the console.
Huh. That's crazy.
That's neat. That's really neat.
I'll have to check that out. Cool. So yes, Switch 2 arriving on Thursday. We've got a couple of us have our pre-orders. Sam is ever hopeful, but what are we? I mean, I think we talked about this a little bit before, right, Alan? But like, I know reviewing the software lineup, right? There's not a whole lot with this launch, which is interesting. Like, if I think in some of the initial conversations around the Switch 2, I think there were a lot of hopes and dreams about what the starting lineup would look like for it. And it felt like it was always like Mario Kart and other stuff, right? Like it was always like Mario Kart and like something, right? Like maybe not a first party IP, but like something else kind of exciting. But it really feels like it's just Mario Kart, right? Like Mario Kart World. There's the demo game. I think there's like some other like indie stuff, but that's really what's driving it, as well as maybe some upgrades to classic titles from the Switch, right? Like some of the software upgrades for Breath of the Wild and that sort of thing. What do we think about that? Like, do we think that that's the right choice? Do you think that they're not going to move as many units because the starting lineup is kind of underwhelming, or do we think that it's spaced out well enough with Donkey Kong, with Metroid Prime 4 to be like, okay, cool, like I've got stuff to play this month, that month, this month, that month?
Yeah, so I think that obviously everyone, like, we're all really there for Mario Kart, and I think that that game alone is strong enough to kind of carry this weaker lineup because, think about it, Mario Kart 8 is still like a really popular game all these years later. People still play it. And now all of a sudden you're getting a version of Mario Kart that's like this huge open world. It's going to be easy to hang out with your friends online and kind of just roam around and find secrets. I think that that will definitely hold people over. I mean, if Mario Kart 8 could hold people over for what is almost 10 years, then Mario Kart can hold over for the next couple of months until, the lineup starts to build. And I think that the real sort of, I think, surprising thing for most people will probably be how much better stuff like Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, and Mario Odyssey run on the Switch 2. I remember during one of the Easy Allies podcasts, Daniel Bloodworth, one of the hosts, spoke about being at the Nintendo event when they, officially unveiled the Switch 2, and he's like, I kept like looking over at the screen running Breath of the Wild because it just looks so nice. So I think that even though a lot of people have already played those games, that the opportunity to play them in what in my opinion is like the way they were really meant to be played, 60 FPS, HDR, like those things matter. That's going to really impact the way the way those games play and feel, and that people are going to have a lot of fun going back and revisiting those games with all these nice visual upgrades.
Yeah, no, I get that. That makes sense. What do you think, Sam? Like, are you feeling like Mario Kart World will be enough to like kind of is it enough to excite people to get into the Switch and to kind of get started, or do you think that the starting lineup is a bit lackluster?
I think that I think Nintendo's first party stuff there is enough. There is enough. Like as Alan was saying, Mario Kart 8 is still really really popular, and Mario Kart World with this enormous awesome world and all these awesome new power ups and stuff. I think that's going to tide people over quite a bit. And hey, look at past console launches as well. Like say PlayStation 5. They started with Miles Morales and they gradually added more and more. And I think that's going to be the same case with this. On top of that, I am I'm excited / cautiously optimistic about a lot of the ports that are going to be available at launch. Personally, I'm really excited to get my hands on the Switch version of Cyberpunk 2077.
Oh, true. That is true. Yeah. There's a lot of hype around that and having that handheld. I mean, folks, they like how it plays on this. I feel like it's gotten optimized for the Steam Deck as well. So I think there are folks who have, kind of taken that handheld experience, but honestly with the newer hardware, I think folks are really excited to see that because it's not just about Cyberpunk 2077, right? Like, it's the idea that the Switch can be a place for so many other games outside of the first party library, right? I think that's really what Cyberpunk 2077 is representing for folks who are excited about that. It's the idea that, okay, not only can I play my Donkey Kong, my Mario Kart, my Metroid, et cetera here, but now this is going to be more of a platform that can play all, other great indie titles and even more robust, kind of AAA games that might typically go to other platforms like an Xbox or a PlayStation, but now it can come to the Switch too, because the hardware has taken a step up and can compete a bit more.
Well, definitely, definitely, and not just Cyberpunk. There are also other big games that have been really, really huge, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how they translate to the Switch too, as well.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. Yeah, I'm excited to see how the launch goes. I'm excited to see how the units move. I'm excited to see if there's been on again, off again kind of concerns about additional increase in price, right, with the Switch 2. I know the Xbox recently had their units increase in price because of all the tariff stuff happening. So I'm curious to see how that all bears out. But in the meantime, if you're out there and you are going to be getting your Switch 2, excited for you. Hope you enjoy it. Hope you have a great time setting it up and everything. And if you're still on the hunt, like our good friend Sam here, make sure that you either follow Wario64 and look for those updates, or potentially partner with your local vendors like day of and see if there's opportunity to pick up any in stock when it launches, either midnight launch or day of launch, so that you can get your hands on it as well. Or you can wait, or you just kind of cling to the Switch that you've got. Maybe you upgraded to the OLED recently, like I did, and you wanna hold on to it longer. But cool. So next thing I wanted to talk about was I saw this yesterday. Marvel's not going to have a Comic-Con panel this year at Hall H. So, typically, as Comic-Con goers are aware, and even those who don't go to Comic-Con, I think Hall H, of course, is an iconic venue. It's the biggest space there is at Comic-Con, and is home to likewise the biggest panels, right? It's where you had the Rings of Power panel. It's where you had the all the different premieres and previews, Deadpool and Wolverine last year, all kinds of great stuff. And the Marvel panel, arguably since since the early years of the MCU, has been sort of a flagship panel, right? It's been the one that people camp out for days for, and it won't be there this year. And so I guess, Sam, I'll pitch it to you first. Like, what's your thought on this news? Do you think it's indicative of anything? Do you think it's the right move? What do you think?
Well, I think Marvel has skipped out on Comic-Con a couple times before. I remember there were a few years where they skipped and
Yeah,
showed their
like the
stuff.
writer's strike and stuff like that, right? Yeah.
And hey, Disney has their own event, D23. They could be waiting to show some stuff there as well. So I think that might be their plan going forward. Stick with their own little event at D23, and where they can be the sole focus and not have to worry about competing with anyone else's buzz.
Yeah. What do you think, Alan? I know you're closer to the MCU side of things, so I figured you'd have some thoughts on this too.
I'm gonna be honest with you, Jeremy. This is the first time I'm hearing about this Hall H place. So,
what? You've
for
never
me,
heard of Hall H before?
I don't know anything about Hall H. I'm like,
Oh
I don't
my
know.
gosh.
Like, I'm just the most casual MCU enjoyer. Is there
Okay.
an MCU movie at the theater or not? That's all I care about.
Oh my
I don't know.
goodness.
I guess it's a big deal because I know Comic Con itself is a big deal, and like if you got a comic adjacent thing, you show up. That's like the event.
Yeah.
But as Sam was mentioning, you have also the Disney one, like the D23, which they also show up at. So honestly, like for me, it's a bit of a non-event that they're not there.
Well, yeah, because you didn't know about Hall H. That's surprising. So yeah, I mean, I think for me, I've heard obviously different sides of it. Of course, there are folks who are saying like, oh, Marvel is already kind of uh, playing defense on Fantastic Four, because the other thing to keep in mind too is Fantastic Four literally comes out the weekend of Comic-Con. And so the idea is similar to Deadpool and Wolverine, right? Last year, Deadpool and Wolverine came out like the Thursday before Comic-Con as well. So the idea is like, that is where you can go and kind of celebrate that, right, with fans. It's like, hey, it just came out, you probably went and saw it on Thursday or Friday or whatever, and we can all be super excited about it. And so the fact that they're not having a con, of course, the haters are like, well, it just means that they're embarrassed of Fantastic Four and don't want to show their face. Not saying that I agree with that. I just think that's one angle that I've heard. The other side
Like
of it,
for
though,
me,
oh, yeah,
like
what do you think?
hearing this as like again not a like super huge comic person, for me I'm like, oh, that makes sense. He'd probably rather just do like national media, like the Today Show, Good Morning America, and not even like in terms of like the resources
Yeah,
we got,
late
putting
night
more of
late
that
night
in Comic
circuits,
Con.
right? Like Pedro Pascal on like freaking late night shows and stuff, like
Exactly.
Jimmy Kimmel and stuff. Yeah. I'm curious. I bet we'll see some, or hot ones, right? Like maybe they'll go into hot ones. I'm finding more like the media circuit is less the late night shows and more the major YouTubers. So that was interesting to see, like with Deadpool and Wolverine, especially. Yeah.
I will be very happy to see Evan Moss Backrack on Hot Ones. I would pay good money to see that.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, yeah, I think that's fair, Alan. In terms of like the national kind of marketing strategy in conjunction with a wide release of a very popular film as opposed to doing a Comic-Con. The other angle that I was hearing that was a bit more assuming positive intent, and actually I like this more, is that they're all working on Doomsday. like there's a lot that's happening right now with Kevin Feige and the Russo brothers and the MCU in general, as they kind of pivot and they're trying to kind of right size the MCU to begin with, right? Because we talked about previously how phase 4 was very bloated, right? So many TV shows, so many things. Like the movies were more misses than hits for most folks. But that was sort of like the prevailing idea. It was like, oh, like it seems like MCU has lost its touch. And so I think they heard that feedback, and it takes a while, right? Like the MCU now is not a small operation; it's a very large operation. And so, as somebody who works for a very large company, I can empathize with the fact that you don't just make the decision overnight. You don't just wake up one morning and go like, that's it. We're axing 4 TV shows. We're axing 3 movies. We're just doing this. Restructure the timeline. Like it takes time, right, to strategically execute on all of that stuff. And
Especially,
they're starting to do that now, right? And
Mhm.
I think that's part of the reason why they're not having a panel. Like that makes sense to me. So yeah, I like that idea. I'm bummed. I am bummed. It's not that I am usually the one to like camp out and wait for a Hall H panel for Marvel, anyways, because you know it- we live in an internet age, right? Like Hall H happens for everybody simultaneously. Like there is no world in which like something happens in Hall H and the entire geek spectrum doesn't know about it immediately. So while it's cool to like be in the room and be part of that experience, if at the end of the day what you want is the news, it's not like they're going to keep anything a secret out of that room, right? Um so yeah, but that being said, it will still be missed, I think. And it'll be a bit of a different vibe for folks who are attending not having that Marvel panel available. But yeah, any other thoughts, any other closing thoughts on that in terms of
I I do have a bit of a funny story. You mentioned Deadpool and Wolverine's panel last year.
yeah.
I found out about who was on the panel just minutes before I went into seeing the movies. So the Electra and Gambit cameos were completely spoiled for me before I went in.
Oh no, that sucks. Yeah, that's That's so good. Yeah, and that's the
Oh,
thing, right? Like it gets out. It gets out immediately. So, like when Robert Downey Jr. took off the Doom mask, right? Like it blew up. Like it was everywhere instantly. The video was everywhere instantly. So, congrats to whoever got that video, by the way, that made the social media rounds, because I hope you got your bag, because that thing was everywhere. Yeah, I mean it gets out. It gets out quick. So all right. Moving on to something completely different. Well, kind of completely different. So Critical Role, the company that featuring Matt Mercer and a group of crazy voice actors that like to play Dungeons and Dragons, they have launched their new tabletop RPG system called Daggerheart, and they had a launch party. I think it was last week, and they are kind of beginning to roll it out. They're going to do a new kind of special. I think they started it last Thursday, called Age of Umbra. But I mean, I'm just curious, Sam, are you in the TTRPG space at all? Like, do you play D&D? Like, are you familiar with Critical Role in general?
not as much as I'd like to be. I have a passing knowledge of D&D, largely thanks to, well, pop cultural osmosis. So I'm not really that much into the tabletop RPG space.
Yeah.
I am familiar with some of Critical Role thanks to Legend of Vox Machina on Amazon, which is one of my favorite shows on there. Uh, but as far as actually playing TTRPGs, I don't have a ton of experience.
Yeah.
Before coming on to here, I did watch a video of Matt Mercer explain the mechanics of Daggerheart and how it works, and it seems really unique and interesting, especially with how the hope die and the fear die work. Of course, I'm sure you want to go into that first.
Yeah. Well, I guess yeah, definitely looking at the system. I mean, it is kind of a unique take on, they use like 2d12 instead. But I'm actually more intrigued by their approach to storytelling in general. And I actually was having a conversation with a friend of mine about this. And there's some concern, well, not concern maybe, but there's been some feedback that, like, looking into the system, it seems to be a system designed for Critical Role. Like, basically, like, with the level of trust and the level of like proficiency in like role play that the DM has, that Matt has with his players, and vice versa. And there is an ongoing sort of discourse around the Matt Mercer effect, right? Which is probably something that you've heard in your pop culture osmosis of Critical Role and things like that, where the idea is that ever since Critical Role came out, and it's been 10 years now, right? That Critical Role's kind of been in the mainstream ever since, and the resurgence of D&D that followed, right? In no small part because of Critical Role. The Matt Mercer effect is essentially when you have a D&D game at home or with friends, immediately comparing it to Critical Role, right? Immediately comparing the DM to Matt Mercer, immediately wanting your experience to be like the at this point highly produced tabletop experience that is Critical Role. And of course, all the reasons why that's not realistic, right? Like you don't just sit down at a table with strangers and have a Critical Role experience. That doesn't happen. It takes years and years of trust and familiarity with the game, and familiarity with characters, and all that stuff, right? To kind of get that going. And so I thought it was really interesting that, at least from like not even from like a mechanics perspective of like rolling the dice and like the hope and the fear die and like how it impacts the story, etc., but like just how like creating characters and like initiative, for example, like in D&D, in 5e or whatever, like you roll a die and you get a number, and whoever has the higher number on initiative gets to go first, right? And then you go in order. there is no initiative system in Daggerheart, right? Like it's sort of like who feels like they would go first, right? Like there's much more of that, kind of natural system that again only comes from a environment of trust and an environment of like friendship. And so yeah, I'm definitely intrigued, but I'm also concerned. I'm curious if it will get traction in the broader TTRPG community because of that. But yeah, I realize that I think I have more of the TTRPG background or familiarity than either of you. So I will not stand here on this podium and continue talking all by myself. I will instead transition to our next topic and our final topic, which is some buzz around the Persona 4 remake. So this was interesting. I think that it started, was it last week? Yuri Lowenthal, who originally was the voice of Yosuke Hanamura, had posted on Blue Sky that he would not be reprising his role in the remake. The as of yet not announced remake. And he said, quote, I asked and maybe I even begged, but they don't want me to come back. Also, the voice actor for Chie Satonaka, Erin Fitzgerald, also confirmed that she wasn't invited to return. There's also been interesting domain activity. P4re.jp was registered and updated by Atlas. And yeah, it's basically something that's kind of, it's en route, but the conversation from the voice actors kind of got things started. Are we Persona 4 fans in this house? Is the first question I would
have. First off, you go first, Alan.
Oh no, I was going to say that I've never actually played Persona 4. My first entry into Persona is Persona 5.
Nice. It's a good one to start with. Persona 5 is a great game, arguably the best for a lot of Persona fans. But what about you, Sam?
Well, first off, I want to say this is how I found out that Yuri Lothal's on Blue Sky. I'm going to go follow him now.
Excellent.
Aside from that, I haven't had a lot of experience with Persona 4. Most of my experience has been with Persona 5 Royal, and currently working on playing through Persona 3 Reload. I played a little bit of Persona 4 Golden a while ago, but I got sidetracked by 1,000 other nerdy things at the time. But it is a bummer to hear that Yuri's not going to be reprising the role. But I do hope that they get some other really great talents to work on it in the meantime.
Yeah, it was a bummer to hear that, and I'm curious, like, what the strategy is. Like, are they adding? Yeah, like, are they just bringing in new talent? Like, are they just going to
Isn't
take
that what they
a
did
whole
in
new?
Persona 3 Reload though? Like,
Yeah,
according to this kind of like discourse and everything that I was reading, they brought in new voice actors for 3 Reload, but the original voice actors were able to kind of come back and reprise different roles. Like, were much smaller, but like, fans remarked that like it was really cool to see the old voice cast will have a little bit of a part in the
like Easter
Reload.
eggs. Yeah, yeah. And it's funny though, because it's like, I mean, I get it. Like, you want to be able to provide opportunities for new voice talent, and the market has certainly evolved and changed quite a bit since Persona 4 first came out and first was voice acted for. But at the same time, the Easter eggs are kind of fun, but it's also like, if you bring Yuri Lowenthal to do like 2 lines of like a random barista or somewhere, it's almost like I would rather not. Like if I was Yuri Lowenthal, I'd just be like, no, like either I'm going to be the role that I was originally, or you know you can find somebody else to do those lines. You know what I mean? But maybe I'm too petty. Maybe that's just a petty thing.
I mean,
Yeah.
the guy's Spider-Man now. I think he's got bigger projects.
I think, yeah. I mean, and that's the thing too, is like, he's Spider-Man, right? Like Atlas, and you know what it is though? It's he probably got too expensive for them, right? Like that's the problem. Like
Yeah, but
he
what
now
about the
can
rest of the
voice.
voice cast? Though I don't think like the Yuri Lowenthal's and like those type of roles are pretty few and far between.
Yeah, I mean,
Laura
well,
Bailey was also part of the main cast as well.
yeah, Laura Bailey's huge now. Can't afford Laura Bailey on that. But it's
Same thing with. Oh, sorry. And wasn't Johnny Bosch the voice for the main character as well?
Johnny and Bosch. Yeah, I think so. I'm trying to remember if that was 5 or 4, but yeah, I think it was in 4.
Hmm.
And yeah, so I mean, it's interesting because it's not even just the the size, right, Alan? Like obviously, Yuri Lowenthal, like his career just kind of took off like crazy, and obviously Laura Bailey too, like whatever. But even still, like even folks who arguably would be like more mid-range in terms of status or whatever, it's you still have to account for inflation, right? Like you still have to account for inflation and also like their general professional development. So, I wouldn't expect a professional to charge me the same rate or even 10 or 20% more than they charged me 10 years ago, right? Like I would expect that there will have been a significant kind of increase in their rates, and so that might be why they're going back to the drawing board, is to say like, okay, cool, let's go find folks who are eager to get their first big break, right? Like they want to get into the game industry. They've done some other cool projects or whatever, and now now we're going to give them a big title, and this will be it. So that's probably what's driving it, but even still, it's a bummer when those talented folks can't come back and do what they do best. But okay, that's all that she wrote. Those are the stories that we had on our docket today. Sam, I wanted to thank you again so much for joining us and just chatting nerdy with us for a bit. Where can folks find you if they want to engage in some geeky conversation with you?
Well, my main platform is Blue Sky. I am at geekyscitizen.bsky.social. I do have a few other accounts on other platforms such as Tumblr, and I used to be on Threads, but largely if you want to get the most interaction with me nowadays, Blue Sky is the main way to go.
Yeah, sounds good. All right. Well, thank you all for joining us on this epic quest through all things geek. If you enjoyed this episode of GG Everybody, be sure to hit follow, leave a review, share it with your fellow fans. If you've got a hot topic or a hot take, feel free to slide into our DMs on Blue Sky or email us at contact@thegeekligrind.com. We'd love to hear from you. Until next time, may your rolls be natural 20s, your loot be legendary, and your save points never be too far away. GG, everybody.
See ya.